So we'll take notes and refer the item to the proper administrator for follow. For public comment, we will move into our Board of Education work session, or Board of Education meeting. We'll start with the mission. Our mission is to provide a safe and caring climate and culture in which we engage, inspire, educate, prepare, and empower all learners in partnership with their surrounding community to be successful in today's and tomorrow's society. The Board of Education meeting will be live streamed via our district YouTube channel. It is 6:32 p.m. And Zach, would you please call roll? I'll just let you. I've done this for
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, Zach, would you call roll?
Yes, and I apologize if my congestion interferes with my ability to enunciate appropriately. Following board members are present at the district administration office. Scott Andreessen.
Here.
Al Dahlgren.
Here.
Zach Dorholt is here. Monica Shigera-Schwartz.
Here.
Heather Weems.
Here.
And the following board members are not present, Shannon Haas and Natalie Copeland. The following cabinet members and staff are present at the district administration office. Superintendent Dr. Lori Putnam, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education Dr. Jason Harris, Assistant Superintendent of PK5 Education Nikki Hansen, Assistant Superintendent of E12 Education Services Dr. Mike Rivard, Executive Director of Community Education Adam Holm, Executive Director of Finance and Business Services Amy Scallerud, Executive Director of Human Resources and Labor Relations Tracy Flynn Bowe, Executive Director of Operations Gary Ganchi, Executive Director of Research Enrollment and Assessments Don Roper, Director of Community Engagement and Communications Tammy DeLand, not here, okay. Media Technicians Paul Novak and Gordy Scott, and Custodian on site is Evan Voss.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the board meeting agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So move.
Scott?
Second.
Heather? We have a motion and a second. Zach, can you call roll?
And, Heather Weems,
Yes.
Monica Shigera-Schwartz,
Yes.
Zach Dorholt, say yes. Al Dahlgren.
Yes.
Scott Andreessen.
Yes.
Second item is the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of non-controversial items that the board adopts routinely without debate. Any single member may remove an item from the consent agenda by requesting removal at the time the consent agenda is moved for adoption. On tonight's consent agenda, we have item A, approval of personnel staff changes. B, approval of monthly financial report for January 2024. C, the approval of the monthly treasurer's report for January 2024. D, approval of board policy 604, instructional curriculum as revised, third reading. E, approval of board policy 613, graduation requirements as revised, third reading. F is the approval of the board policy 620, credit for learning as revised, third reading. And G, joint purchasing contract award, Apollo Theater seating. Is there anyone who would like to remove an item from tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion.
So move.
A second.
Second.
Scott and Zach. Zach, could you call roll?
And Zach Dorholt, yes. Monica Shigera-Schwartz,
Yes.
Heather Weems,
Yes.
Scott Andreessen,
Yes.
Al Dahlgren.
Yes. Then we'll move into our information items. The first item for the information items is One District, One Book, 10th Anniversary, presented by Lori Eckert, Literacy Coordinator.
Good evening, Mr. Dahlgren, Superintendent Putnam, and members of the board. I am thrilled to be here tonight to just share a little joy burst with you on One District, One Book and the 10th anniversary in our schools. So I brought with me a few props tonight. These are some of the books that we've had over the past couple of years so that you can see them in person. So tonight, we get to celebrate that we have completed another year of One District, One Book, and I want to highlight the many people, the many jobs, the many highlights that the schools do, and the activities that all go into One District, One Book. So here we go. I formatted it in the sense of fun facts so that we could zip through all the fun facts in One District, One Book. And I also want to just call out the presentation tonight is not of my doing. It is from the communications team who does so much to support One District, One Book. So I thought it would be nice for you to have the same slice of presentation that the students have in their schools every day. So here we go. Fun fact number one, we've been around doing One District, One Book for 10 years. There have been many iterations of One District, One Book, but there are some common denominators in each of the years. The first common denominator is that One District, One Book takes place in February every year, which also overlaps with I Love to Read Month. During this month, every family gets to take home one book. So by the time they finish our elementary school years, they have 6 books that are part of their family library. What has changed about taking home one book is that about 6 years ago, Shields partnered with us, and they have been supporting One District, One Book by providing the funds necessary to purchase the books. Book titles are selected and recommended by a group of people. Typically, it starts with our media specialists who do wide reading and have a great knowledge of books that are out there that would be of high interest for students. So we start by some recommendations from them, but then it also has to be a book that fits well within 1 month, that can be read in bite-sized chunks each night in chapters. It needs to be engaging. We typically look for books that are part of a series so that when we finish, we can say, hey, go to your library, check out the next book in the series or another book by the same author. And we try to find titles and stories that have maybe a tiny lesson that the students can take away, generally around the idea of friendship or helping or being a good citizen or problem solving. And oftentimes you find in children's books that shows up through little furry creatures. So a lot of our books, you will notice, do have animals as the main character, but a couple years we've done actual students and kids. Other things that are the same are having family access to resources, and I'll talk about that as we go through the whole presentation. You will see up on the slide also that there are bookmarks. We create a new bookmark every year to show the nights in the reading, and then on the back of the bookmark there are questions to engage with your family for conversation. And there's calendars of things to do at home. Fun fact number 2, we have sent approximately 22,638 books home with our families since 2018. And if you want to kind of rough that in half, approximately a little over half have been supplied and supported by the partnership with Shields, for which we are very grateful. Fun fact number 3, Shields is our partner. They started with the book, The Vanishing Coin, back in 2018. And they do a fantastic job of organizing events at their store that match the theme of the book. And I'll show you some of that in just a little bit. So here, the event at Shields takes place on the Saturday before the books are sent home on a Monday. And so this is our launching event, our big reveal. We keep the title a secret until Saturday, and then about 10:05 on Saturday morning, we have the drum roll and the title of the book is revealed. We do have someone in the room who I think has been to every single event, and they are framed in the IM 742. So shout out to Mr. Zach for bringing his, yes, but I do have a picture of you from every year. So he's brought his family faithfully every year. In the center photo is Sarah Mathiasen, who and her husband Mike. They are both employees of 742, teachers in the district. They also bring their students every single year. And on the right corner is Michaela Wood, who is also a 742 teacher. So I just wanted to highlight that while we have many families that come for this, we also have a lot of staff engagement. They like to bring their kids and their family for that. And here are some of the things that happened at Shields this year. Because the title was The World According to Humphrey, what they did was to focus their activities around Humphrey the hamster. So the students actually got to create a hamster house habitat and take a little stuffy home with them. And that was a huge highlight. The center picture, this was a challenge. I don't know, Mr. Dorhold, if you spent time at this table. They had, I don't know how many words it was, 40 words that all had to deal with animals, pet shops, and you had to unscramble them. And I thought, oh boy, that's going to be kind of a drive-by. You would not believe the number of families that stayed at that table to complete the 40 words. And they were challenging. I suppose you could say the impetus was they could enter their name for a drawing for a gift card from Shields. So there was a little benefit to that. On the right-hand side, you can see there's a hamster launch where it was a giant rubber band. You pull back the hamster and you were aiming for a bucket. And that was a lot of fun. We had several high school teachers with their students spending a lot of time at the hamster launch. They had a tent set up under the large tree in Shields. If you've been to Shields, you know what that one is. And you could go in the tent. Typically, we have had volunteers do the reading. This year, we left the tent open, and it was amazing to see the families that went in together to read books, which is the goal of families reading together. So that was fun. In the center picture, you'll see they are working on the hamster launch again. Lots of engagement around that. And then the picture on the right, look right above the little boy's head, and you will see a little tiny stuffy hamster with an orange tag, and they hide the hamsters all around the store, and the students get to go around and find the hamsters. And of course, they have to fill in a sheet, and then they can turn it in for a prize. So this little boy was super happy to be able to find a hamster. Fun fact number 4. The Pack Rat Roll and Read bus receives book donations. People bring slightly used or new books and put them in the shopping cart. And then we donate those to the Roll and Read bus, which is typically parked outside in the parking lot on that Saturday. This year we collected exactly 100 books to donate to the Pack Rat Roll and Read. Fun fact number 4. Approximately 80 ISD 742 people are involved in just making this event happen. That does not include the entire staff at Shields that sacrifices 4 hours of their day. They are phenomenal. But I'm going to highlight a few of those 80 people that are involved in our process on the 742 side. Number 1, we have the entire communications team. From website to video to design to adding closed caption and just spearheading all of the communication that happens around One District, One Book. The clerical team that supports through the purchasing of the book and printing of some of the resources. There are 2 teams I call the Dream Team. It's the media specialists in the building and the literacy teams in the building that help to throw out and roll out events at their schools. The high school sports teams and the National Honor Society often come and volunteer and help at Shields during that day. We have Community Ed, who facilitates the whole partnership with Shields and provides community partners to come and help at Shields. AmeriCorps RSVP, Catholic Charities, senior RSVP members, student readers, teacher readers, the equity department, the DHH teachers at Discovery, and then of course, the thousands of people, of families that come and participate. So One District, One Book is a big thing. It takes a lot of people to have a lot of fun. Fun fact number 6. This year, there were approximately 38 staff and students involved in recording the chapters. The book is only 15 chapters long, so you might say, well, why do we have 38 people? It is because this year, we were able to expand the readings to include Spanish. Because the book was printed in Spanish, we were able to have a whole section of Spanish readers for the families who would prefer to listen in Spanish at home or to practice their Spanish at home, some of our immersion families. So each night, the chapters are recorded and put on the district website so families can listen. We had English, Spanish, and American Sign Language with closed captioning. And so just highlighting some of the people who did readings for us this year. Each year we do try to expand our reach on who does the chapter readings for us. When we first started, it was a lot of the learning and teaching team. It was administration. I know Nikki read chapters, former Superintendent Jett read chapters. And then it kind of in the COVID years, we kind of switched and we pulled it even in tighter. And now we're trying to expand that out to include more of our teacher representations for just our different families and student populations that are in our district. So that is a goal that we are working towards, and we're growing towards that goal. Fun fact number 7. There were approximately 1,927 English and 420 Spanish video views by students and families. So over the course of the month, if they choose to listen to the book, they can pop on the video and listen at home, or if you're busy, you can pop it on in the car when you're driving, or you can read along. The website, as I mentioned earlier, the communications team is instrumental in all of the pieces around getting this out to family. So this is what the website, the web page looks like. For the month of February, we get it all dedicated to ourselves, where you can access the Spanish chapters. There's always an activity calendar where something to do each night that has to do with the book. And it might be watching an interest video, in this case about how to care for a hamster. Many of the authors that we have worked with have specifically recorded, welcome, we're glad you're reading our book, 742 students. So they're making it specific to us and not just a generic, thanks for reading the book. So there are links in the activity calendars. This year there was a board game that the author had created. And one area of growth this year is we did create the family reading guide in English, Somali, and Spanish, with the idea that if you want to have more conversation with your child, here's what happened in the chapter. Here's a theme from the chapter. Here's how you can talk about it with your student. With the idea of growing vocabulary and also just growing the idea of, wow, books can teach us things. We can learn and enjoy books in a lot of different ways. So that was new this year. Fun fact number 8. After the students have read or listened to the chapter the previous night, they come to school in the morning and they get to start the day by answering a trivia question from the previous day's chapter reading. So I thought it might be kind of fun for you to see how one school managed the trivia reading. So this is Discovery, and the fabulous media specialist there created these videos.
Guys, what are you up to?
I decided to help you out, Mrs. Mathiasen, and organize all of the answers that have been submitted for our questions to The World According to Humphrey. So I organized them into grade levels. And wow, there's a lot of classes that have been answering the questions.
Wow, I am blown away. So, okay, here we have kindergarten. Here I see we have Brew Street in first grade, Smith Street, second grade, maybe third grade, Kramer, Wasey, and Quimby. This looks like fifth grade because I see Hacker, Schroll, and Cornelius. Let's see here. I see Miller, Carlsweek. That must be fourth grade. Wow. I am blown away by all of these answers that these kids are coming up with. What book are you reading in there, Humphrey?
I'm reading Little House on the Prairie. It's an amazing book. And I think that Miss Dicey had it for her favorite book.
I think you're correct. I think she was telling me that her grandma would always give her the next book within the Little House on the Prairie series.
Well, can you guys help me decide? I have these Valentine's bookmarks. Because as I love to read, the kids can use these bookmarks. And I'm kind of looking, I see that some classes have not missed a single chapter for answering questions. Do you guys see which ones I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. I see that we have a first grade group, and actually, we have 2 second grade groups.
Yeah. Let's see here. Do I have any more? Oh, that one, they still have a lot. But I think Miss Strahan, Miss Smith, and Miss Street's class have not missed a single question yet. That's pretty amazing, you guys, isn't it?
Wow, you guys rock. That's amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing.
Yeah, so I think we could give the bookmarks to those 3 classes. Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. Okay, well, thank you for organizing all of the answers to what we've gotten from our students in our classrooms. And Humphrey, you'll have to let us know how that book is, okay?
Okay, let's go. Hey, Humphrey, we need to deliver these bookmarks, and we need to deliver you to the classroom. Would you like to join me? Oh, absolutely. Here we go.
We have some very creative people in our district.
Hey guys, what are you up to?
Fun fact number 9. Buildings create One District, One Book kickoff events, family engagement nights while they highlight the book. So I just have a couple of pictures for you to see what happens in our school buildings. On the left, we have Sarah Mathiasen doing a share out of Here Comes the Book at Discovery. In the middle picture, there's a class super excited to have their book to be ready to take home that night. And on the right-hand side, we actually have a visiting hamster at Westwood who would shortly be delivering books to the classroom. They decorate media centers so that it becomes kind of a fun little transportation into a different world when they go into the media centers. One of the media specialists found all of these hamster, I forget what they're called, it's some animal thing that used to be popular, and had hamsters running all through these mazes in the library when the kids came in, and that was part of their fun time in there. On the right is a picture of making a hamster wheel at the family night at Oak Hill. They had an amazing race at Oak Hill where they had to compete and complete different activities throughout the whole building. One of them in the center was to do some coding and have their little hamsters actually follow a path on the coding mat. And then they were working on building structures, like hamster structures, with blocks on the floor. So there's a lot that goes into One District, One Book. And I think what I really want to do is just highlight the fact that our district is full of so many creative people that you give them a title of the book and they can take it and run with it, and they can have a lot of fun in their building, helping to instill that love for reading. And so I want to just close with one last quick little World According to Humphrey video for you. that is the end of One District, One Book until next February.
Scott?
What ages or grades are we dealing with?
So this is a K through 5 program, in schools.
Okay, you have quite an age spread. How do you pick a book that's going to satisfy kids of that age spread?
Right. So that's why I brought these in so you can kind of see the difference in what we have. We typically like to think of, okay, what would grab interest? And when we think of what would grab an interest, knowing that the book, like a kindergartner wouldn't necessarily be able to pick any of these up and read it, but that's why we provide the video viewing at home. And it is meant to be family engagement to read with your family. So it could be an older sibling, it could be a parent, it could be a babysitter that would read the book to them if they're not able to actually read the book themselves. But we also know it has to hold the interest of a 5th grader as well. So we try to navigate and hit the middle ground, but you can see last year's book was Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library. Definitely a higher interest, higher readability, but this book actually got some of the highest reviews that we've had so far because it was so engaging in what was happening inside the book. So we try to hit a middle ground, but yet knowing the interest, if someone is able to read it to the student, will hold for the month.
Sounds good. Have you given any thought to maybe trying it in upper level kids too?
For a couple of years, we've done a program called Book in a Day. And now that Andy Lanning is working with secondary, that's a conversation that we've had where each of the middle schools, the teachers were given a copy of a book, and the idea was that they would read a chapter at the beginning of class, and by the time the students left that day, they would have read or listened to an entire book. And that is pretty much up to the discretion of the middle schools participating in that, but that is one thing that we have provided in the past.
Okay, well, thank you.
Question?
You may not know this. What do we know about our students and I guess trends in terms of reading? I guess the interesting thing that always catches me a little bit, particularly in the day of book bans, is that kids don't check out books any longer. They spend a lot more time watching TikToks than they do reading, at least in my house. And I think that transcribes. What do we know about our readers, and what sort of use do libraries, in the form of not the media center piece of it, but actual libraries, what sort of checkout patterns do you see?
In public libraries?
No,
or in our school libraries?
Yeah.
All of our media, I can tell you this, all of our media specialists work very hard to make their library space a place that students like to come to. And there is library checkout every week for all classes. And I think students in most buildings get to check out 2 books a time, as long as, they bring them back. But they keep track of that because they don't ever want to say no to a student. So I know all classes go every week to check out books. And then they do have some time in the media center where they do read. And it's pretty heartwarming to be in a building and the class comes in and the kids are searching through and scrambling to find their books, and then they go and they have beautiful chair setups in the libraries where kids can sit in lots of different types of spaces to just read and enjoy their books.
Is that at all grade levels, or is that more in elementary?
That is
versus-
K-5, and I'm sorry, I don't have knowledge of our secondaries.
Can I interrupt? Gary?
Oh, yes, we have Gary, the expert.
The circulation is good. And as long as I've been involved in libraries, the younger the student, the higher the circulation. So elementary, we have high circulation. As you get to middle school, it drops off a bit. As you get to high school, it drops off more. It's not that they aren't reading. I remember when my daughter was in high school, I said, why don't you go in the library? She said, because if I need a book, I go to Barnes and Noble, you buy one for me. So that, they're still reading. One thing, since I've come back into getting involved with libraries over this past year, is I've seen a renewed interest as part of the ESSER funding. We've spent quite a bit of funds on library books, and the focus has really been that high interest, low vocabulary, so we can meet some of our literacy needs out there, and then really trying to align the collection with the interests of our students, and that those books reflect our students. And I have 3 book orders next to me tonight, and I'm excited to read some of these books that are going into our library, so it's good, yeah.
Gary has a media specialist in the elementary levels that is specifically working on making that happen for all of those buildings. And I can also say that the Pack-Rat reading program that we have, where students do take books home whenever they bring them back, and they get these book rotations, that's not a checkout. It's just here's your book, take it home and read it. When you're done, bring it back, and we'll give you new ones. And so that is another opportunity for students to get books in their hands. And I agree 100%. We need to have books in our hands and doing that reading.
Scott?
How do we select what books goes into our media center? For example, we had somebody that wanted to donate books.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, it's a good segue, Scott, because we will be bringing our selection policy to the board for review. There've been some changes, and I believe it's on the next board development agenda. So we'll be bringing it, but basically, in a snapshot, is we have a selection criteria that we follow. The idea is that we have a broad range of books. The beauty of a library is it's not that it's this specific book. At an elementary school, maybe this book isn't for Amy, but we've got 29,000 other books that might be for her. But we do have a set criteria that it aligns with our curriculum, aligns with our mission, that it's age appropriate, and we'll be going over that over the next few weeks. So.
I was just thinking we have 900 teachers with 900 different opinions as to what ought to be in the library. This is going to be a really good presentation you do.
The one thing that I've seen that I think is really cool at our high schools, the media specialists do a good job of reaching out to the students to find out what they're interested in. So I believe that there's not only staff voice in there, but student voice as to what type of resources that they would like to see.
Lori? Lori, thank you.
Yes, thank you for the
Presenting.
opportunity.
And I'd also, on behalf of the board, like to say thanks to Shields for their donations. It doesn't come without a price tag, and we recognize that, and we appreciate their participation immensely. Oh, Monica?
Thank you for all your work and for this program. Along the questions that have been asked already, I'm wondering if you look at what some demographics about the kids that read. So I know that kids that are from middle class or more affluent families are more likely to read than kids that are free and reduced lunch or poor families or working families. So how do we look at that, and how do we look at what do they read?
So I think try to provide the best opportunities for students to read. So do we have books available? And in this case, with One District, One Book, are we making it accessible for families who maybe the parents do work at night, and so maybe they're not at home necessarily to read with the students, so we do have those videos ready for them to do the reading. The teachers do a good job of encouraging the reading for students to check out books and to read. We send home books in pack rats. So the accessibility for books is always there for all of our students all of the time. What happens when the students go home and how much time they spend reading, we don't necessarily track. Some teachers do reading logs, but not necessarily across the board. So teachers would have a good idea how much time kids are spending reading. But that's not something we really track to say how much our students are reading independently at home. But there's opportunity during the day for that.
Do we track what do they do during the day?
So in terms of reading during the day at school, we have allocated in most of our grades 120 minutes in the literacy block. Some are down to 90 minutes as the students get older. But there are accountable minutes during the day for literacy, which includes an instructional lesson, something that has to do with phonics, and teaching how to read, how to decode. There is practicing using extended vocabulary that they could use in their reading and their writing. And then there is actual practice reading time in the lesson. And part of our curriculum does have a reading component where they respond in writing. So you have to read in order to respond. And then it has another text that goes with it for students to read independently, either with support if they can't access it by themselves, or independently, or sometimes with a partner also.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, Dr. Mike Grivard will review the proposed 2024-2025 school calendar. The calendar was developed by the Calendar Committee, which consists of school staff, administrators, and district personnel.
Good morning, or excuse me, good afternoon, Vice Chair Dahlgren, Dr. Putnam, and members of the board. This evening, we have our recommendation for the 2024-25 school year calendar. You do have paper copies of those in front of you, along with calendar notes. I will briefly go through each month. Each month, I'm going to utilize the calendar notes that I have in front of me. That way, if you do have any questions, we certainly can stop as we move through. So I will start with August. In August, we know during those 3 days when we come back for workshop week, that those now are right now identified as workshop and family conferencing, open house and professional development days. Those are TBD days right now to be determined, as our professional development committee and our district advisory committee will make some determinations on how each of those days work or look, but we do know that our staff will be with us on those days. As you move into September, we have Labor Day off, and September 3rd is that transition day when we have some students who are coming in, especially for our 6th and 9th graders, new to their buildings. And then we have goal-setting conferences going on for early childhood, elementary Kennedy, and no school for those students. So we know that on September 4th, all of our students are back in session as we start the school year. In September, we then have a 2-hour early dismissal, and we would be done with our first month of school. As you move into October, you see that on October 3rd, we do have a staff professional development day. That is an all-day staff development. And then on the 17th, we have MEA day, MEA professional conference. And then on the 18th is a no school day. That concludes October.
Question on October.
Please.
October 3rd, right square in the middle of the week. How'd that happen?
So that is also a holiday for Rosh Hashanah, thank you. And we could determine whether we could have that on October 3rd or October 4th. In some of the work we did with our equity team, which is part of the committee, we made a determination to use October 3rd as that day.
Okay, I was Just wondering, it would seem like October 4th, all of a sudden the kids would have a 3-day weekend. But
And that was one of the considerations, Scott, but we also wanted to be looking at ways that we could be both looking at the holiday for families but also considering what's going to be a great day that we can be having professional development too. So that's the recommendation at this time.
thank you.
Welcome. Great question. As we move into November, we have a 2-hour early dismissal, and then we go into our Thanksgiving holiday weekend. On November 26th, we end our first trimester, November 26th, and then on November 27th, we do have a half-day workshop day for our teaching staff.
Hey, Mike, on November 5th, which is Election Day, do we have any polling places in the schools anymore or no?
No, we did check with Mr. Ganji, and I will assume that the answer is still no. We have no polling.
It's no, and with the thanks to Mr. Holt, he really led that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that should conclude the month of November. We move into December with no days off or other activities going on until we meet the winter holiday break, which is going from December 23rd through January 1st. Moving onward down into January, we come back on January 2nd. On January 17th is another 2-hour early dismissal that we'll be utilizing for staff development. And then that following Monday is Martin Luther King Day, which would be a no school day. Into February, we do have a 2-hour early dismissal on February 14th, staff development. And then on February 17th would be a no school day due to President's Day. We end February with the end of the trimester for second try on February 28th. Moving into March, we have that first week off as being our midwinter break. And then at the end of the month on March 28th is our second full day staff development day. And then as you go into that weekend, March 31st on that following Monday is our spring break day. Okay. Moving down into April, April 18th is a no school day. And that's the only day off that we have for the month of April. In May, again, we are with students the vast majority of that month until May 26th, which is Memorial Day. And then May 30th is the last day of school year for our students, and our third trimester ends with Tech and Apollo graduation following on the 31st. A half-day teacher workshop on June 2nd, and hopefully no weather makeup days on June 3rd and 4th. Knock on wood. So, this is the proposal for the 24-25 school year calendar that's being proposed. Are there any other questions that I could try to answer? Excuse me.
I have one. Did anyone physically count the school days to make sure that it matched up with contract days since we last leap year?
Numerous of us did, from HR to our members of our 2 or 3 bargaining units. So, and I counted it 4 times, Al, but I don't necessarily trust my own math. So yes, I think it's been vetted through a number, at least 8 people.
Okay. I just know that when I build a calendar, I used last year and I just do the same thing over again, and we had an extra day this year.
I assume you might have been the 10th person that counted the days, or no?
I did not count them, no. That's why I was asking. Any other questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve this. The administration recommends approval. And the families are waiting so they can make their vacation plans for next year.
So moved.
Heather, and I
Second.
need a second. Second with Monica. And is there any further discussion? If not, Zach, can you
Yes,
call
sir.
roll? Oh, Scott?
That October 3rd, for the sake of our families, I think it should be the 4th. I mean, I understand there's diversity things, but for the sake of our families, they would like to have a 3-day weekend instead of a day off in the middle of the week. I'd like to amend the motion to change that from October 3rd to October 4th.
Can Lori respond? Lori? Scott is proposing an amendment to the motion. Is there a second for that? I do not hear a second.
Okay.
So we had a motion and a second on the table. Zach, would you like to call roll?
I'm told to wait 1 second.
Okay.
So I think that I'm getting messages saying that there may be an error in the calendar, that March 31 is actually supposed to be a school day. I did see that we do have 2 days for spring break, which sounds delightful, March 31 and an April 18. But when I check on the Google, it tells me that there is nothing special about March 31 in 2025. So I think that that should likely be a school day. So I do believe administration would be looking for an approval of the school calendar as is, as written here, with the addition of March 31 as a school day.
You guys are making this complicated. I'm
Yes.
just filling in.
We're keeping you on your toes.
Do we have to withdraw that motion then? We have to,
If we're, yes.
we
Yes.
should withdraw the motion then, so
Our apologies.
I will withdraw the motion.
okay, Heather withdrew the motion to approve the calendar as presented. So now we're going to amend the calendar to make March 31st a school day, and I'm looking for a motion to approve the calendar with the amendment of March 31st being a school day.
Can I just ask?
Yep.
We had assured that we had met with all the contract, you had asked the question about contract and counting. Does someone need to count before we?
Yes. Should we take a little 5-minute recess? We're going to take a 5-minute recess so that we can do a count on this.
31st to October 4th.
I'll call the meeting back to order. And Mike, so you guys went through the calendar.
So administration recommends a change in relation to what Dr. Brutnam brought up, that we would be, March 31st should be a student contact day.
And with March 31st in there, that gives us the correct number of student contact days.
That's correct.
Okay.
I move the calendar as corrected
As corrected by,
for approval.
with March 31st being an in-school day.
Yes.
Okay, looking for a second.
Second.
Second by Zach. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Zach, would you call roll?
Monica Sugiura Schwartz. Zach Dorholz, yes. Al Dahlgren.
Yes.
Scott Andresen.
No.
Heather Weems.
Yes.
Calendar passes. Next is approval of tentative agreements. And Tracy, I believe you have one for us, and this should be the very last one in this round of negotiations.
Okay, good evening, board members. I'm very excited to report out on the final contract for the 23-25 contract period for our clerical group. So you all have a copy of the summary of the tentative agreement that was ratified yesterday by our clerical members. This group on the summary sheet represents about 65 employees. That doesn't include additional employees that are in Fund 4. So really, there's 73 or so members of our clerical staff supporting our work around the district, and we're really pleased to have reached this agreement with them. So I'll summarize the agreement. In year one, it includes steps for all employees hired on or before January 1st of 2023, a 4.75% increase in hourly wages for all employees, an additional 1% increase in hourly wages for employees in Class 2, and an additional 2.75% increase in hourly wages for employees in Class 3 and 4 as part of a compression adjustment based on the compensation study that the board authorized earlier this year. The agreement also adds a 3-year longevity step and increases longevity on steps 10, 15, 20, and 25 by 5 cents. And you see the longevity schedule then following that on your summary sheet. There's an increase in the district insurance contribution to single plans, moving the district contribution from $568 a month to $615 per month, and an increase in the family plans from $1039 per month to $1090.95 per month, effective 4/1/24. We added a new level of vacation at 11 to 15 years. And you see now there is an intermediate step then at 11-15 for 18 days of vacation for those vacation eligible staff. We added special leave of 2 days per year for 10-month employees. That was already in the contract for our 12-month employees, so we extended that to our 10-month employees as well. We increased the wellness pay percentage to 80% of eligible hours from 60% previously. We added a paragraph on reemployment after resignation that adds language to the contract that employees who leave the district employment but return within 18 months return without losing seniority or compensation levels that had been established during their tenure with us. We added longevity eligibility across all of our non-licensed groups. So if an employee in the clerical unit had previously been a para in the district or a kitchen helper or a custodian, all of that service in the district, as long as it's continuous service, is eligible for consideration as we calculate longevity for the groups. And then finally, we added the Juneteenth holiday for staff that are working during that summer session. That brings our new starting pay rates for our Class 1 employees to $16.39 an hour, for Class 2 to $18.03 an hour, for Class 3 to $19.93 per hour, and for our Class 4 employee to 21.45 cents per hour. In year 2, there will be steps again for employees hired on or before January 1st of 2024. There'll be a 2% increase in hourly wages for all current employees across the board. And then new starting pay rates would move to $16.72 for Class 1, $18.39 for Class 2, $20.33 for Class 3, and $21.88 for Class 4. The total 2-year cost of this agreement is 11.26%, and that is within the bargaining budget established by the board. I'm looking for a motion to approve the clerical contract.
I move to approve.
Motion, Monica. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Heather. And is there any discussion? Scott?
What we pay for the health insurance, do we try to make that about the same over all the contracts, or is this something special, or what's the deal?
Now, this brings the clerical group now into alignment with all of the other contracts. And so for single insurance, all employees of the district from our non-licensed groups through our principals are all the same. For the single contribution and for the family contribution, teachers and all other employee groups are now the same.
So that's what we've been working at for years.
We've been working on it for about 15 years, so I'm really happy to have met those goals.
Oh, good job.
Seeing no further discussion, Zach, would you call roll?
Al Dahlgren,
Yes.
Zach Dorholz, yes. Monica Segura Schwartz, Heather Weems,
Yes.
Scott Andresen.
Yes.
Thank you, Tracy. And I just want to reiterate that settles all of our contracts for this year and the coming school year. And in the coming school year, we are projecting a balanced budget, which is a really good thing when you look at what's been going on around the metro area. Most of the majority of school districts, I think all but 12 school districts, are projecting deficit spending in their next budget, and deficit spending turns into cuts. So I think that our staff can feel really good and really secure that they're going to have a job moving forward, whereas you can't say that for every other district in the metro area at least. So congratulations on settling the contracts. Good work to all of the negotiators and groups, and thank you, Tracy and team. Next up, we have the Board of Education Standing Committee reports. And I know that, Scott, you've got one, and Heather, you're doing Natalie's. Okay, so Scott?
The committee met on February 28th.
This is Policy and Governance Committee.
Yes, Governance and Policy Committee. The committee met on February 28th, 2024. Assistant Superintendents Rivard and Harris presented board policies to the committee. And the following board policies were reviewed with no recommendations for changes to be made by the committee. Board Policy 304, Superintendent Contract Duties and Evaluation. Board Policy 305, Policy Implementation. Board Policy 306, Administrator Code of Ethics. Board Policy 503, Student Attendance. And Board Policy 508, Extended School Year for certain students with individual education plans, IEPs. Board Policy 503, Student Attendance, will be presented to the full board for the first of their 3 readings. That's our report.
And then Achievement, Integration, and Equity, Heather Weems.
The Achievement, Integration, and Equity Committee met this morning. We had 2 agenda items. The first was a report on the 2023 graduation data. Donna reported that the state has not publicly released that grad data, and she will track and put together a report for us to review, and then we'll get back to you on that. The second was further discussion on a portrait of a 742 graduate. We discussed how to advance this work more expeditiously and in alignment with other initiatives taking place in the district, including the strategic plan, the 5 Cs, and the marketing work that is currently being developed so that we can begin getting it out to families and thought leaders in the community.
Thank you. Next is future agenda items where you can suggest any topics that may be of interest to you for a future agenda. Does anyone have any that they would like to recommend?
Yeah, I have a question. I think last time we had talked about the possibility of a presentation on civics. What's the status of that, please?
Lori, do you want to talk about that?
Thank you, Scott. That question came up at Board Agenda Planning this morning, and so I did send an email to the board letting you know that the decision was made to not share that presentation publicly at this point. It was simply a recapping of how we teach the standards for civics and government, and that is not new information to this board at this time. As we know, the state just finished its work on the social studies state standards, and we're expecting information from them in the coming months on implementation guidance. And so when we receive that, we'll be certainly providing that through Jason and his team. It primarily affects the secondary. And so that will come forward when we have any change to make. I did share that PowerPoint with the board, however, an email for your review.
Thank you. So basically, we're waiting until the legislature gets their act together?
I think, well, as much as I would like to say yes to that, it's always fun to throw the darts. They've actually done their work, and so now it's we're waiting for MDE to just provide some guidance. And to be fair, they only just finished their work last week, so we'll give them at least a week.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that concludes our board meeting for tonight. So then we'll move into our Apollo Vision. And, sorry, I know my paperwork here. Dr. Lori Putnam and Apollo Principal Justin Scalarud will present a detailed overview of the Apollo Vision.
Acting Chair Dahlgren, members of the Board of Education, Cabinet, and community listening from home. I'll speak on behalf of Justin. We are really excited about the opportunity to share our vision for Apollo, which this board I know shares. And we've put a lot of work into the facility and that community, much needed work. And so it's a great opportunity to be able to share that with the public, as well as have a very serious and candid conversation about what's needed yet to do and how we might go about doing that. And all of the work, all of the conversation that we're going to have tonight and all of the work that has been done are focused on the necessary learning opportunities at Apollo High School. And for close to a decade, we have discussed the need for schools whose facilities support us in preparing all of our students on both sides of town for today's and tomorrow's citizenry and workforce. We know that it's been a long journey over this last decade. We had a failed referendum, had 2 failed referenda, I should say, and then we had a fire, and we were getting close to being able to bring a second or third referendum forward, and then COVID, which very much derailed many plans, not only in our district, but across the state. And we are grateful, of course, for the tech high school that was provided to us by this community. We don't take that support lightly. and our students and our staff, and of course, I know all of us here are grateful for that. And we know that Apollo, while we aren't looking for we aren't looking for carbon copies, we are looking for opportunities that provide same or similar learning opportunities and safety measures. So one thing that we would ask is that as we go through, there's a lot of information, and so you can, if you wouldn't mind, please hold questions until the end. Tonight you're going to hear us talk about our priorities for Apollo High School. They've guided the work that we've done, and they guide the work that we will do. And those are, for those of our who can't see in the community who might be listening, those priorities are fourfold. First and foremost are safe school environments. That remains our number one commitment to this community. And then a close second is academic excellence. We are committed to and in need of future-ready learning and teaching facilities at all of our schools, particularly at Tech and Apollo, because our obligation is to prepare this community's workforce. Certainly, we want to support all of Minnesota, but our commitment is to the greater St. Cloud community. And with the kinds of facilities that support safe learning environments, academic excellence, we are able to fully prepare our students for whatever might come next here in this area. And now I'll gladly turn, is this still me? Oh, I'm not going to turn it over to Principal Scalard. I'm going to talk a little bit about the total recent investments in Apollo. We have used $14.5 million in one-time state and federal funds to invest in Apollo High School. And we've been very careful stewards of these funds because they are one time. It's not in there, use it or lose it. So it wasn't though we could just sock it away like squirrels. We had to use it by the time this June comes around. And so we've been very careful to do that in a way that minimizes the burden on local taxpayers, so that when we ask for a referendum to complete the work that needs to be done on Apollo, our taxpayers can have full confidence that we have done every single thing that we can do in a fiscally responsible way with the funds that we have.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Putnam. Thank you, everyone. So I get an opportunity to talk about what we've done, and specifically, and then show some pictures of, you can get an idea, and those of you that have been there, and you all have, to see the changes, really starting almost 8 years ago now, and then what we have planned for this summer, which is going to be some extensive work that we're incredibly excited for, and we're ready to start talking about those. We want to share with everyone, and then talk about what's going to happen and what we'd like to see after that. When we look at the one-time funding, as Dr. Putnam mentioned, we looked at classroom media and commons furniture. We knew that furniture was something that could be purchased now, would be something that's going to benefit our students, but is something that in the future, with changes to the building, furniture can be moved, it can be reused, and it would be a good investment that could happen at that time when we did that 4 years ago. Classroom technology and updating classrooms from projectors and screens to TVs, just like the setup we're in today, and making and modernizing those, again, knowing that as buildings and rooms change, we can move those pieces of technology to suit our students and their needs. We did create an outdoor classroom, and this is a great opportunity outside of door 17, which is on the east side of the building, where our teachers can take their students out. We also added a key card reader to door 17, so when our students and teachers are going out to learn outside, we're not propping that door. Our teachers are key carding in. They're communicating with the office when they're outside, so we know where those students are, and it's used almost every day. We set that up, or in the process of setting that up today and this week, and we also set our courtyard up. So we're excited for the kids who want to get outside, and I don't think the weather's going to cooperate, but it'll be nice in the near future for sure. We also, our orchestra room, there was a need for programming our music. We were sharing 3 programs, we're sharing 2 spaces, and to be able to provide that opportunity opportunity for our students. We constructed a new orchestra room in a room that was once a wrestling room, and you may ask how you'll do that, and I'll show you the picture of what it looked like before and where our students are practicing orchestra now, and it's a fantastic space for them. And then also talking about stadium improvements that we did last year, using ESSER and fund balance to do that, and that was an investment. I know it was a group of students that came to this board and shared some thoughts and feelings about that, and that decision was made to make that investment now. And then also adding that stadium scoreboard, which was a combination of fund balance and donations. There's a team of myself, Linda Voigt, who works with our activities department, and Carl Heine, our activities director. Collectively, last spring and summer, fundraised just shy of $100,000 to contribute to completing that stadium scoreboard project, which all of you were there when we opened that stadium. We're able to see that beautiful new facility that we have for our students and for our community. And then our LED sign out front. So when you drive by Apollo, you can see what the happenings are. We're celebrating our students, making sure that we're keeping it relevant and up to date. So we are spreading the good word of what's happening inside the building. So here's some of those things in pictures. If you look at the far left, the picture's a little dark, but you can see that's our old cafeteria furniture. It was not flexible at all. It was, the seating was fixed. It was, X amount of stools per table. And as furniture like that typically is, if you look at the middle upper picture and then the bottom right picture, we now have new seating, flexible seating, different styles. We have booths, we have tables with chairs, we have high top tables. So we have different types of setups for all of our learners to find a place that they feel comfortable. It's a little bit hard to see, but in that top picture, there's plugins at almost every booth, every table. So kids can, they can charge their Chromebooks, they can charge their phones at lunch, because at high school, students can't have their phones out during lunch. So they can utilize that to try to create a little bit more of a college campus feel and respect those young learners and their needs. The next picture, this is a transformation of what a wrestling room looked like to an orchestra room, and I was fortunate enough to find that picture of my now almost ninth grader when he was in about kindergarten in wrestling, playing dodgeball, and I knew I had a picture somewhere of what it used to look like. So that is the same space that was the wrestling room at Apollo, that we no longer needed that space because we now are a co-op sport. We are Crush Wrestling, which is housed at Tech, so we were able to take that space and utilize it for a different purpose, and it is a very functional. One thing that I'll mention that's not on the far right picture, not seen, is the acoustic panels, which really the addition of those acoustic panels allows that space to be very functional for the need of our orchestra students and our orchestra teacher. Looking at the classroom furniture, this is something that was done for all classrooms this summer, and you can see the change. Those are the old trap tables, as they were called. Those were all taken out. Chairs were replaced. We were very intentional about the type and style of desk and chairs. We talked to folks at Tech. We talked to other communities as far as what was best for learners. We did sit tests for our students and for our teachers. Did model classrooms. Everything we could do to make sure we made the right choice, and we're very pleased with what we chose. And McKinley also chose the exact same style and chair, so that's at the McKinley site as well, that you'd be able to see that, and they've held up great. We're very pleased with the decision we made with the new classroom furniture last summer. You can see this is our outdoor stadium. This stadium houses not only, it's multi-sports, multi-activities, 2 soccer teams, 2 lacrosse teams, dance team, football team, boys and girls track and field. You can see the update for what used to look like on the far left, and then after this summer, the update that we've had. In the bottom right picture, the track is not completed. It is completed. It is lined. The kids, I don't ever remember. I've coached high school track, junior high track, been around for a long time, and they were outside on the first day of track on Monday, running around on the new track. I don't think, even if there would have been snow on the ground, they still probably would have wanted to be out there, but it was a great use for them. We've already seen this beautiful new facility garner interest from all over the state. Minnesota State High School League rented the facility to host a state football game. Minnesota Vikings, in collaboration with Shields, rented the facility to host a youth football camp. The Vikings were so impressed with the facility, they're coming back, hopefully, if our construction allows for parking, but they want to host another camp at Apollo this summer. So our goal was to build and make this, where we're situated, and accessibility for people all over central Minnesota. It's really so far doing what we wanted it to do, and not only provide opportunity for our students, but for our community and for those rentals coming in as well. And then from an education standpoint, it's hard to believe, but this was January 31st. Our FIAD teacher found me and asked, can we bring the kids outside? And we said, absolutely. The great thing about field turf is that it dries very quickly. And the FIAD classes were outside on January 31st with no snow, participating in their classroom activities at the new stadium this past year. And this is a before and after of what the scoreboard at Michie Stadium used to look like, and then the new scoreboard, the digital scoreboard that was installed this summer. And again, with the funding sources, the fund balance and donations to complete that project. So other improvements that have been made to date, HVAC improvements, and over the last summer especially, we completed B-Wing, and you can see that picture in the upper right. That was one of the walkthroughs that I did with the construction company and Mike Spanier as we were completing that. The B-Wing roof replacements is something that was completed last summer. Gym improvements, we've redone the gym floor. We've added new bleachers in the past 10 years, and then as part of this summer's project, but we were able to get it done over spring break. The gym was recently painted for a brand new look, and it was really exciting on Monday to see. I wanted to be down there when the first classes walked in, and it may seem something so small, but when we talk about all the things we have happening this summer, and the refreshing that we're going to be doing, to watch the kids walk into their new gym just with a new paint job that it had, and the excitement to see, we're just looking forward to what we'll see in the future, and after this summer's improvements. The west parking lot and bus chute have been resurfaced. We've done sidewalk improvements, pool repairs. We had to drain our pool, and this summer we found that it needed to have some regrouting done, so we had to do regrouting of the tile of the pool and did some painting and added sound panels in there, and you can see a picture of what our pool currently looks like. And then we started some flooring replacement projects in 14 classrooms last year that will lead into the work that we're doing this summer. So, starting June 3rd, we have a lot of things going on that we are really excited about. Learning space and hallway finishes. So all the flooring, carpeting, and hard flooring is being replaced in the entire building, including the cafeteria, the hallways, except for what was done last summer. I want to be clear, being fiscally responsible, we replaced that those projects are done, but we'll be completing the rest of the building really as part of this summer's work. So when students come back and families come in late August, they'll see brand new flooring in the entire building. Something that we're really excited for. We're excited for all of these, but for our theater folks and for our students that are participating in the fine arts, we're going to be redoing our theater and doing auditorium improvements. And we're going to talk about, new seating was mentioned earlier. We've seen some very initial pictures, but it's going to be a beautiful space for all of our students and for our community to use when it's completed this fall. So that's an exciting project that we have happening. Parking lot improvements, we'll be looking to complete redoing the north parking lot. That comes in door 7, the activities entrance. And if you've been to Apollo, it needs to be done and it's going to be done. So we're excited to have that addition. The restroom renovations. This is something we've been hearing from our students and from our stakeholders for a long time, is that we need more restrooms. We need to do something with the existing restrooms that we have, and we listened, and we're going to be doing that. We're going to be adding 2 new restrooms in B-Wing, which is the area right by the office. So by the main office, there's going to be 2 restrooms added that will be accessible for students during the school day. those are going to be individual stall bathrooms. That's something that's something new that's happening as far as each stall will have its own door, and then there's a shared wash space. And that's also, and sticking with our safety goal, we know that that's going to be an additional piece. Wanting all students to feel welcome and belong is another piece to do that. So we'll have 4 restrooms that will be individual stall, and then all of the other restrooms in the building will be completely renovated. So they will be new tile, new fixtures, new flooring. So if you're coming in to go to the play or go to the basketball game, those bathrooms, when you come in at door 7 will be redone, same with door 2 and throughout the building. So we're looking forward to those upgrades. A-wing replacement is happening this summer, so we'll be completing, that's the last of our roof replacement that needs to happen. The Tech Ed HVAC is going to be completed this summer, the 900 part of the building, if that term makes sense, but the Tech Ed on the east side is going to be done, and that will complete the HVAC improvements that have been needed over the years and that have been happening. The tennis courts are being resurfaced this spring, summer. We have 8 courts. 4 of them are going to be multi-purpose tennis/pickleball. So I know our community is going to appreciate that, and 4 of them will be traditional tennis. So we'll still be able to support our Crush tennis teams, our rentals, our tournaments that we have, but also with the addition of having pickleball courts and 4 of them for the community and our kids to use as part of physical education and after-school activities. And then an indoor digital scoreboard. It will be coming sometime May, June into the gym. That will be used for all activities. It will be used for assemblies. You know, any rentals that we have will be an opportunity there for our community to use. So some of the Apollo facility needs can only be funded through a referendum. Everything that I talked about before we've been, as Dr. Putnam said, fiscally responsible in terms of using LTFM money, one-time money, being very sure that we're looking at everything and being good stewards of taxpayers' dollars. Things that we didn't have, the funding sources aren't there to do for a couple of different reasons, and I can explain. One would be the controlled entrance and an office addition. If you in our office and we come into our building, it needs to be improved, and we are in agreement of that. With Apollo, with doing new construction, part of that, if that were to happen or add on, is that you need a storm shelter. And that's something that could be addressed for the middle box. A new gym, a 4th gym would serve as the storm shelter, which would then allow us to do the controlled entrance and office addition. We wouldn't be able to do that piece without the addition of that storm shelter. And then site improvements, different things that we'd like to see throughout the site, just, you know, updating some things on the exterior and continue to, you know, showcase the wonderful things that we have on the inside. From an academic standpoint, things that are extremely important to us, to Apollo, that we need to make sure that we're providing, as Dr. Putnam said, that workforce that our students have opportunities that when they leave to be able to be go into the world and do what they want to do. Health and science labs, that's something that we really want to be able to provide. There's so many things that we can do with technology as providing real world scenarios and preparing our students. And right now with our current setup, we don't have the ability to do that. Culinary lab, we have a great FACS program. Our teachers are amazing. They're doing a great job with what they have, but quite frankly, if you don't have gas stoves, you're not preparing your students to go work in a kitchen. And with what we have right now, we're unable to do that. Robotics is one of the fastest growing activities really in the state and in the country. We have teams at Apollo that are going to nationals, and we're very excited for that. They're practicing at North Junior High right now in the woodshop area. To see a robotics lab and have that area for them to truly be able to grow not only that activity, but the curricular piece during the day with those robotics classes, and be able to have that multi-purpose room is something that we really, really need to see to be able to, you know, really let that program grow to where it can. Music renovation and reconfiguration. I showed you the new orchestra room. We do have a choir and a band room, but they need some work, and we need to refigure those areas. They need to be redone to be able to provide that true experience for our kids. We've created, or we're in the process of creating, a beautiful theater. One thing that we were unable to do was to create the theater scene shop. The scene shop would be the behind the stage piece where everything's being created and then being brought out. Right now, it's off to it's stage right, but it's right kind of in the mix of everything. It's not very functional, and it will continue to work that way. So from when you're in the audience watching, you're not going to see that, but it is going to be there. It still will be the same as it is now. And then equipment and renovations for our tech ed labs. Just like anything, technology, staying caught up, staying up to date is extremely important. And we want to make sure that we're, keeping our tech ed area and all of the equipment in it as modern as it can. So when our students leave, they're working with the same equipment they'll have out in the field. And then a few more other facility needs that we could be still be looking at that we were unable to address at this time is kitchen and serving areas. And again, thinking about construction and going back to what I said, reconfiguring things. That's something we're not able to do at this time. Locker rooms, weight rooms, renovations. We're not going to be touching the weight room. That will stay as is. The locker rooms, we're going to put new lockers in and we're going to put new flooring in, but we're not going to be, we'd like to add single-use showers where each student has their own shower with a curtain. We'd like to redo the bathrooms in there, and we're unable to do those at this time. And then field improvements. Just the general upgrade of fields, all fields having scoreboards, all fields having bleachers, having the ability not only for our students, our Apollo students, our CRUSH participants, but that community use piece. We know that we need to see those improvements if we want our other fields to be used as we're seeing the new updated field that we did last spring. And that's a need that we would still have.
Thank you, Principal Skellerud. So we've had a great look at where we've been, and now we want to turn to what's ahead. Justin went through very carefully showing us what we've done and the funding sources that have been used. Again, those were either one-time sources or LTFM dollars, which can only be used for renovation. It can't be used for expansion, which really causes us some significant challenge, as we know. So the costs that are yet to be incurred based on what we know we need to provide that academic excellence, the future-ready facilities, and the safe learning environment are beyond our means, despite our careful fiscal stewardship. And we know that the only way available to us to raise those funds is through a referendum. And so we, as an administration, would like to make a recommendation to this board tonight that we continue to have ongoing annual discussions on the needs of the Apollo facilities. We'd like to again focus on those 4 areas, always going back to what do our students and our staff need to be safe and to be provided the best learning opportunities they can for their futures and that of this community. We do recommend that there be no referendum here in 2024. It being, we have had those conversations with board members one-on-one, and we know that the time is late, but with the number of items coming to the ballot that would increase the tax burden for our local citizens, along with the uncertainty of the economy at this time, we do not feel that this is the right time to go for the referendum in 2024. And as Principal Skellerud showed us, we are doing the things that we can do, and we have construction starting even the day of graduation, right? We're jumping right in as soon as we can. So there's a lot of work happening now, but we do need that to continually look at, is the time right? 2025, is the time right? 2026. We know that we can't continue to put this off because the costs that will only grow, and the one-time funds through ESSER are unlikely and probably hopefully unlikely to come again. And so, what we really want this board and this community to take from this presentation is that while we have been good fiscal stewards, while we have been careful, while we have been cautious and responsible, the question about an Apollo referendum is not if. We know the need is there. The question is when.
Questions? Monica?
So thank you for the presentation and everything. So this is kind of a work session, so I kind of propose in a discussion. Would it be too bad to decide, let's say right now, I mean, it doesn't have to be right now, but let's say for the sake of argument, decide right now that we're going to have a referendum on 2026, and that we start working right now towards the referendum? Can we make a decision with this level of anticipation, or what would be the problem of doing that?
I think, and I can't say for sure that we couldn't, but I think that it would be difficult because part of having a referendum is you need to get a plan together. You need to know exactly what you're going to do and what the cost of that is going to be. And if you start working out 2 or 3 years out, it's really tough to put a number on what that's going to be. And to hire architects right now to go in and draw up and design plans and pay for that now for something that is out 2 or 3 years, I think would be difficult also, but not necessarily impossible. I hear what you're saying from the standpoint of getting it out in front of the community from an expectation standpoint, but I don't know how specific we could be with it. That would be my thoughts, but it's open to the board. Heather.
Obviously, when you're looking at anything related to a referendum or major building changes or new facilities, those sorts of things, there's the piece that is, what are we doing to serve our students right now? There's also the piece that, what do our demographics suggest we're going to look like in 10, 15, 20, 30 years? Do we know what's being projected? What sort of conversations have you had with demographers to help us think about what we think this population is going to do longer down the road than probably the next 5 years?
So we did a demographic study just prior to COVID, and we did had some conversations with some organizations last year that reviewed that demographic study, and despite COVID, still believed that it to be a reasonable data set from which to make decisions. And so what it showed that there, we know that north side, northeast, west. The northwest side is fairly landlocked, right? So there's not a lot of space left for development. They're laughing at me. There's not a lot of space left for development. So we expect that population at Apollo to be fairly stable. And I believe that our last design for Apollo was 1,400. Was done at 1,400, which we believe is a responsible size with the expectations for the future growth.
Scott?
I think that we've had plans done for Apollo previously. Are those of any value anymore? I mean, we had a hanging space capsule at one time planned.
I think when it comes to looking at what would be next, that'd be the first place you'd start, is what have we already time investment put into this, including plans, and see what's relevant for the now, even though it's only been a few years, and then build upon that. So absolutely, I don't think anyone would say we're starting, we've had these conversations, we've had referendums, so we need to take what we've done and see how we can continue with that, adjust that plan, and modify for even the 3 or 4 years of change moving forward now.
Okay.
Scott, can I add to that real quick? And I just want to say that, although some of those plans, there's some flexibility, right, as we look at the changing needs, we've been super careful to make sure that the money that we've invested are in the portions of the facility that won't change, that have not changed, right? No one's decided we're going to move the theater to the whatever side of the building it would be, right? It's where it is, and so we're very responsible about putting money into the spaces that we know impact student learning, impact safety, and that won't change regardless of what happens with a future referendum. So thanks for letting me add that on.
There was a couple of things. I'm getting some pushback on turf. What are the advantages of having turf?
I think the advantage, I'd say, if we just looked out there on Monday, our baseball team was walking out to practice outside the first day of practice as our track team was walking off. They weren't able to go on the grass. That's an opportunity that wouldn't have been there for our students a year ago. So usability, and then the capability of the rentals. We're gonna, as we start to now, we have to do the parking lot and those things this summer, so it's a little tricky for this summer, but moving forward, once that's done, we've already seen that that want from the community to use it and to be on it, and you can be on it from 5 in the morning till, as long as you want the lights on, 10, 11 o'clock, 9 months, 7 months out of the year, depending on the snow. So that's really the biggest piece that you just can't do with grass, because it's not just not being able to use it, it's keeping it in shape. Before this season, we were the only school that had a grass field that was playing every boys soccer game, every girls soccer game, and every varsity football game on a grass field, and it was becoming unsafe by October 1st every year, because that's a lot of kids it rains one time and that field is gone. There was multiple times we had to move playoff games for our kids to turf fields at colleges or other schools just to keep them safe. So those are some of the reasons that the decision was made.
Does turf reflect on knee injuries?
So I'm not 100% voiced in those studies, so I don't feel comfortable answering that. So I know that there is things out there that would say, the turf that we made sure that we got a quality that we felt comfortable with, that was equitable or very close to of grass, as far from an injury standpoint.
I think the pros hit a lot harder. Maybe they cause their own injuries.
That could be too.
This storm shelter, that was a change in state law, as I understand it. And in order to make any big improvements, we have to have a storm shelter. And it's going to give us an opportunity for a new gym at the same time?
Yes, and I would say, so with any addition, anything that we added on, so if we talked about doing, for example, restructuring where the offices are to be a better flow coming into the building and creating that secured entrance, I just think it's important to say when we talk about a new gym, it would be what we call an auxiliary gym. It would be one court for volleyball or whatever it is you're playing to be offset of the main gym. And if you think about Tech, they've got the 3 courts and then they've got the auxiliary gym. It would be a similar concept to being that 4th gym space, that auxiliary space that could be used, for physical education classes, things, you name it, the blood drives, all the things we do during the day, but then community use as well.
Okay, so it's basically a change in the law that is forcing us to do the storm shelter.
Yeah, I'll just elaborate on that. So the change in the law requires that anytime you do an addition of square footage to a building, that there is a space within the building then that is identified, constructed, or modified to qualify as a storm shelter. That doesn't have to be a gym. right? But based on those qualifications for what a storm shelter entails, a gym is the most cost-effective way to do it. We saw that as a challenge with our McKinley addition, right? That is the only addition that we're putting on that building, and so the addition itself has to meet that storm shelter capacity, which is extremely expensive. We'll have to have similar conversations potentially down the road, a number of years if we were to need additional learning space at Tech, because again, if we were to ever need an addition at Tech, a portion of that addition will have to serve as that storm shelter for that building, and there's some significant added costs that come with meeting those requirements. So it's not that it has to be a gym. A gym was already identified as a need and a priority in terms of space and use for both instructional for FIED and adapted sports use as well as activities. So the need was identified prior to the storm shelter change in law, but it's more of a non-negotiable, I guess you would say now, because it's really the only cost-effective way that we can meet that requirement if we put an addition on.
Okay. You mentioned restrooms, some with individual stalls, some without.
Yes, so, and I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with the building, but currently we've got two sets of restrooms. There's a staff and a student on each side in what we call the 700s and the 800s. So if you're down in the end of B wing, so those current existing ones are this summer will be reconstructed on each side. So when you go by, there'll be 8. As you're walking in and we're doing our supervision, you'll see 8 doors that will always be open when they're not being used. And then there'll be a place, a common space, almost like if you're at an elementary school to wash your hands. Those 8, and there'll be one that's designated for staff only. And then that's what the students will be using, and it allows us to have supervision, allows students privacy to be able to do that. So we have both sides are going to be taking the existing and making those into that, and then we're adding brand new ones. We're going to a classroom and a half in what we call our 400s and our 500s. So really, if you think about like when you come in the main door 2, and you look right past the office, you'll see on that corner will be one, and at the other end of the hall will be another. So that will be an addition of 16 toilets that will be for students to use. A benefit of that then is as well as when they're in those learning areas, now they don't have to walk all the way down. They don't have to go to the auditorium. They'll be right near their classroom, be able to get there and back more efficiently, and also providing that privacy, which has been a major request from the students. And then the rest of the restroom facilities, so if you think about with this beautiful new theater, those are going to stay the same. Those will be as they are, but then they will be taken down to stud and rebuilt back up with the new tile, the new fixture, all the things. So they'll be brand new, but they'll stay functional as we know them now when you've been in there, and that will be on both sides. And the same with door 11. If you come in that area where the swimming pool is, the back door to the gym, we have a lot of community use there. Those bathrooms will be taken down to stud, and then new tile, new fixtures, and all those. So they'll be new in the sense, but they'll just be updated and not changed in how they function.
Okay. At Tech, they have kind of an outdoor classroom in a courtyard. Now, you're talking about an outdoor classroom by door 17. I have no clue where that is.
Sure. So that's if you're right behind the softball dugouts where the varsity softball field is, there's a little cutout there. Door 17 is in our language arts area, so it's on the east side of the building. We had a cement slab that was laid, and then we have the tables that are there, so the teacher can take their students out with their Chromebooks, and they can, do the lesson there, and it's a nice space for classes to get outside, enjoy the weather, and be able to spread out a little bit. So.
Okay. It sounds like you already got it.
That we have. That exists, and we just need to get the tables back out, and we're ready to go for that one. So that's one of the things that we've already done.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
But you see, I'm still with the idea of let's plan that already. Let's put a date. I mean, what would it take to say? I mean, I get that we're not gonna plan everything, but we can plan milestones. So can we? I mean, I like to ask the administration to start thinking about milestones to. And I will suggest, I mean, I will not suggest next year because I don't think that next year is a good year for that, but I will suggest the following year. And I don't think that I don't think that a non-election year is good for a referendum. So I will suggest the following year and start preparing for that and starting to put the voice out. We can just get a good pulse of the community. And I kind of would like to know what all of you think about it, all of you board members.
Okay with me.
No? You looked like you were going to say something. Okay.
I think it should have been done a long time ago. Election versus not election was more of a simple ask, I think, compared to previous. Yeah. Election year versus non-election year with what I believe to be a more simple ask is something we need to research. And this is nothing near what we've asked for in the past. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration.
I would agree with that. I would say that in the past, when those plans were done, the plans that were drawn up were probably more than, it wasn't a minimum ask, let me put it that way. It was a more of a stretch to ask there. The biggest thing that's happened right now is we've spent millions of dollars on Apollo with one-time money and with federal money, and I mean we've found a lot of different sources to do a lot of different things. And so the next time we go out to ask, I think that we can tone back the grandiose plans that we had. Plus, we can look, and we've already completed a lot of the work that was going to be part of a referendum the last time. So I think the cost of it is going to come down substantially. I think that there was also some ways to accomplish this with very little tax impact to the public, and that's using, I mean, tech, believe it or not, tech is getting close to being half paid off. You do 20-year bonds, 10 years goes by pretty quickly, and we're getting really close to that. Well, another 10 years, tech's going to be paid for. And there are ways that we could borrow the money or fund the improvements to Apollo and not start paying the principal down until after the tech bonds expire. And so there would really be no tax impact or very little tax impact. And that would all have to be calculated. I'm kind of just speaking right now. But I think it could be done with very little tax impact to the community. The one thing that I keep thinking of when I think about high school improvements is as you go through the state or around the state, so oftentimes you go into small communities and the high schools and the fields, the facilities are you can just tell that community takes real pride in their high schools, and that the high school stands for their community. It's a symbol of their community. And St. Cloud is not much different in the sense that we are a small town in central Minnesota, and we have these facilities. Tech is a beautiful school right now, and Apollo is a beautiful school with beautiful facilities. And for the community to be able to hold that up and say, we're proud of our high schools, we're proud of our community, and we're investing in our kids, and the amount of good things that can happen in those schools if your community shows that they care about those schools, it can go a long way towards educating those kids, giving those kids school pride, and having, I mean, just as simple as just having kids stay in school to complete and graduate and then move out into the workforce. And that the health of a community depends on a really strong school system. And you can't stop investing in schools and expect great results. You have to invest in your schools constantly. And I know I'm a taxpayer. I don't like to pay any more in taxes than I have to. But at the same time, I don't want to come from a community where they let the schools become rundown institutions that nobody wants to go to and nobody wants to teach at, and they don't have the facilities to teach the kids skills that they're going to need for the current workforce. And I mean, it's been 50 years since Apollo's had a real facelift and update. And 50 years is a long time. I mean, 10 years ago, I would challenge most of us in this room to say that we had a smartphone in our pocket 10 years ago. And that's changed the world. You've got a computer in your pocket at any time you want to use it. 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. You had a flip phone. And 5 years before that, you were really excited because you got a phone you could talk on when you were driving your car or out on a boat or something like that. So I mean, and that's 15 at most 20 years ago that we didn't even have cell phones. So you think about how the world's changed in 20 years. It's been 50 years since Apollo was built, and we're still trying to say that that building meets all of the needs of the kids in the workforce that we're trying to educate today. And the workforce has changed dramatically in 50 years. So it's not unreasonable for a school board or a board of education to come back to a community and say, after 50 years, we need to do some work to this school to bring it up to the standards that meet what our students need today, and so that our kids, your kids, can be successful in today's society. And we're gonna, in 50 years from now, we're gonna need more upgrades, and tech's gonna need to be upgraded 50 years from now. I can never promise that that isn't gonna have to happen. So, I mean, I agree with Lori. I don't think right now is the right time to do it. I think we'd have a difficult time passing a levy, but we have done millions of dollars worth of improvements to Apollo, and I think that we're doing the right thing in doing so. We have a beautiful facility there. I'd love to see it upgraded, just a couple more steps, bring the facility up to the same standards as the things that we're putting into it, and especially the kids that we're putting into it. It's my 2 cents. Monica.
Zach, I didn't understand what you said. You were saying that next year will be good? Don't know. So you said that doesn't matter, next year or the following? So, and how do we find out?
I think to find out, I think the administration needs to identify exactly what they're looking for at Apollo and then put it to an architect or an architectural firm who can make some initial design plans. We don't need it right down to where the studs are going to be, but we need initial design plans and just a good, solid estimate on what that's going to cost to accomplish. And I think from there, you can start to move forward.
That's what I would like to happen, because right now, if we're talking about a referendum for 2024 right now, I don't even think that the problem is that there is not a good environment for voting. The big problem is that we're not prepared for it at all. We don't have time to prepare for a 2004 referendum. We haven't talked about it. Nobody knows about this. Nobody's thinking about it. And I really think that we need all this time to start thinking about it. And I would like to ask the administration to come with a realistic timeline without thinking if who's going to vote for it or not, because the reality is nobody's going to vote for it if it never is there, if it's never put out there. And I'm not sure how much. I mean, I like to propose when we start talking about budget again. I like to start proposing a budget that is fixed, put into the a fixed budget that we start putting every year for the referendum work, if that budget is needed, if that is part of the issue. I mean, I'm not really know what it takes to do it, but I'd like to have that conversation. I'd like to have it now, and not again in a year as Lori proposed in her presentation that we talk about this every year. I don't want to talk about this every year. I want to talk about it right now so we have a referendum next year or the following.
We are very confident that we could have something. We are very close to having what the board is talking about already, because this has not been an every year conversation for administration. This is a month-to-month conversation for administration right now. So we are confident that we could be ready in a month, 2 months to bring what you're looking for, to start having those conversations on cost and exact specific needs. And we feel confident that we could certainly bring forward a referendum in 2025. If that's, we would be able to provide the board the information you need for us to have the time we need to go out into fall 2025.
We tend to have better luck in general elections and special elections.
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, we passed the one in a general election, but I don't know that we have a whole lot of history of going out for referendums. We went for the referendum for Apollo Antec that failed, and then we went out for one more and it passed. So, but the Apollo portion of that one did not pass. So I don't know. I mean, I can't say which is better. I think the public is happier if we go in general elections.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Just one more thing that I wanted to say about, Scott, you were asking about turf versus grass. And I just wanted to put it out there. Grass is not really a good thing. Grass is a living organism, but it's sterile. It doesn't bring vegetation, doesn't bring animals, doesn't bring insects, doesn't bring anything. It's just in the way. And the turf might be more costly upfront, but it doesn't. It lowers the cost in water. It lowers the cost in use and maintenance. So the grass is really not that good, and I will advocate until the end that we get rid of the grass that we have wherever we have it.
I agree, but I have constituents that have other opinions and I need answers.
Okay, next, and I hate to do this, but I am just an interim chair here, so I get a pass. We're going to go back to the calendar for a second. We can't vote on anything right now because we aren't in session. We closed our board meeting and we opened the work session. But I want to make everyone aware that I've been informed that March 31st did need to be a non-school day. And so we're going to have to make that change to the calendar. I would ask that the administration move forward making that change, but we're going to have to bring it back at the next meeting next week, and we're going to have to re-vote on the authorization of the school calendar with March 31st as a day off. So it was correct. So all that fire and fury, and we're going to be back to where we were. We will have to rescind the motion. That's fine, yeah. But we can't do it right now because we're not in session. So anyway, that will be coming
What
back.
happens if the person who put forth the motion won't be here at next? So now we start over.
Yeah.
I won't be here next week.
Right. Yep, we can make the motion. We can make the motion to change the calendar next week, and So we will have to, so I apologize. I apologize for the confusion. Next time I will not ask a question about the 29th. So next up on our agenda is proposed revised board policy 503, first reading. Dr. Mike Grevard will review the policy.
Acting Chair Dahlgren, did you want to do 503 first or the?
Let's do schools update, sorry.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Dahlgren.
Things have changed since I did this before, and right now you get you get a piece of paper with each one.
Yes.
It says, and it's like I'm getting them all confused. Agenda.
Yes,
But it's better the way it is right now. It just takes some getting used to.
for sure. Well, good evening, Superintendent Putnam, board members. Tonight for our elementary update, we get to highlight our early childhood programs. When I asked Director Flynn about their greatest strengths, she responded it was their caring and knowledgeable staff. In our early childhood program, we have a wide range of program offerings, including preschool, early childhood family education, also known as ECFE, and birth to 3 special education services. Our services provide support, resources, and early learning from birth to age 4 for students and families. Current highlights at Quarry View include our early childhood program earning the highest rating from MDE, 4-star Parent Aware. Parent Aware ratings are based on demonstration of use of research-based practices that prepare children for school and life. Also a highlight is the celebration of nearly 50 years of our ECFE program, which provides support for parents, promotes child development, and fosters a sense of community. Our ECFE programs help establish early student success in school and in life.
And now for the secondary update. You've done a great job, Interim Chair Dahlgren, and you're back to, you sat in that seat before, so, you know, it's just getting back on like you're riding a bike. So Superintendent Putnam, board members, just a great follow-up to Principal Scholarude's presentation and Superintendent Putnam on the vision for Apollo, and here's why. Board Member Dahlgren, you talked about it and why it's important for our students to have updated facilities. Our focus this month, and shout out to all the students, the coaches, the athletic directors, the families, all the spectators that have been out. We just wrapped up the winter activity season, and it started in October, and if you've been a player in any type of team in sports, you commit, you set goals, you work with a team, and in that, it helps you learn a lot of different things about life in general. And so, for everyone that we didn't have enough slides to put all the photos specifically on how to highlight all the great things that are happening within our activities in athletics. And so I apologize for those folks that we didn't get on there. Our communications department has done an awesome job, if you go on our webpage, to make sure you're getting all the highlights of all the activities, all the great things that are happening. And so I'll start with a few of the winter activities at Apollo. Our robotics teams, all made it to state, from North to Apollo, Kennedy, they all made it to state. The national teams are competing from North and Apollo this year, and so shout out to those teams. The DECA team qualified for state at Apollo and Tech. You see it down in the bottom left corner of our North students in robotics starting young. Sarah Loudenbach got Mentor Robotics Coach of the Year. Shout out to her. You see the Kennedy folks down at the bottom around robotics, and then you see all of the robotics Northside teams. In the middle, you see our swim and dive. Shout out to our folks. Justin talked about it. We had facility updates in swimming. And so one of the things, tell our students tell us that this is why, right? If I have a good facility, they this year placed the highest in school history in 11th in their area, and so that's great. We've had 6 different school records in swim this year at Apollo, right? And so tell us those things of having a top facility to walk into those facilities. It motivates our kids in that way. So shout out to all the folks at Apollo, the North Side, our robotics, the Tech South Side robotics teams, and all the teams that competed for state and now nationals. And a shout out to Lautenbach and that group. Going to the South Side, where you see it on the top screen, Speech took a group of students to Harvard to really get a good experience around what Harvard looks like, feels like. Our swim and dive crush, swimming over on the South Side, and within our partners, finished, went to state. Our band and solo and ensemble, all top qualifiers in multiple areas. You have down at the bottom where National Signing Day, where you have students that are going to sign to play college football at the next level. Our math team qualified for state, and then you have Mr. Basketball finalists in Tamara Ferguson and conference first team All-American. All our crush activities continue to roll. We have our adaptive crush soccer, went to state, kicking butt. You have the gymnastics team that has won conference and down the state. You have Layla Jacobson with the spelling bee that's first in her area. Shout out to the Kenning family, Cameron. She won second year girls wrestling at state. Sorry, brothers. Both brothers placed first and fifth, but we're giving her all the kudos. I know when I see them, you create some great wrestlers over there in the Kinley family. Shout out to you all. Dr. Seuss was one of the plays. All the middle schools have now had a second theater act play. I couldn't put them all there. And then our Crush bowling team, female bowling team, competed for state. And so it's why it's important for making sure our facilities are up to date and our kids are thriving. This is why all these students competed at the highest level in their respective areas across the state. I don't know web pages that you have this many students competing in all types of top-notch across the state in those areas, and it's looking more and more diverse every time of what our students in our school and our student body and our families look like. So shout out to all the activities folks that put a great winter season together. You just heard it. We don't have to worry about any snow for the kids to get out and do all types of things with baseball, lacrosse, track and field. They're out there. I was just in the buildings, and so shout out to Mother Winter. I know you're not gone out there, but our students are out and using our facilities, and they're competing at the highest level within their respective areas. So shout out to those folks again.
Thank you, Dr. Harris, to probably just jinxing us to a 12-inch snowstorm next weekend. But good evening again. As you know, our Crush adapted floor hockey team made yet another trip to the state tournament. Amazing athletes who continue to make our community proud in their participation at such a high level. And our students who play on our adapted teams have educational and physical skill sets that sometimes are challenging for them, but it's addressed by a group of educators I wanted to share with you about tonight. Sometimes we hear about them, but we don't always know what they do. They are itinerant staff. They're licensed education staff members who serve students and go to multiple buildings when they do this. These amazing educators, and there's 70 of them, fall into this group. And I just want to talk briefly about them this evening. So our DAPE teachers, which there are 7 of them, serve more than 387 students in our school district. They ensure inclusive and accessible physical education programs for our kids. We have 7 occupational therapists And our occupational therapists serve 742 of our students. We have physical therapists. We have 2 teachers that work with our blind and visually impaired, and we have near 30 students who have that disability area that get this extra support because of these wonderful educators that we have. We have deaf and hard of hearing teachers. We have school social workers and school psychologists who are working to ensure that counseling services and intervention services are there. Our DHH, our deaf and hard of hearing teachers, are working to ensure that auditory training, sign language, all of these skill sets are happening and are being taught out in our schools by these staff members, and they do a wonderful job. And one of the products of that is having such great Crush athletic teams, but also that we just have accessibility for all of our students. That is our school updates report for this evening, if there's any questions.
I don't see any questions. Okay, we'll try this one more time then. Next, Mike Rivard will review revised Board Policy 503.
Forgive me the moment there. Thank you again, Acting Chair Dahlgren, Dr. Putnam, and members of the board. This evening, we are reviewing Board Policy 503, which is student attendance, last revised on May 5th, 2021. The update from MSBA occurred in January of 2021. Purpose of this policy is to encourage regular school attendance. We do have some minor changes this evening that we want to ensure that the entire school board would be able to hear as we move towards a third reading. Policy recognizes that students, parents, guardians, teachers, and administrators are responsible to have great attendance for our kids. The policy, as a general statement of policy, goes through what those responsibilities are for students, parents, teachers, and administrators. Board Development Committee makes no recommendations of changes in those areas until we get down to the administrator's responsibilities. We do have some minor change recommended. As the discussion at Board Development was talking about when a student has been excused, I'm at number 4, section B, that it's not the school board that makes a decision on that when a student would be coming for graduation and the review of a student's attendance, that it's actually the superintendent or the designee, which is going to be the school principal. And that is verified by administration to be approved by the school board, so that we recognize that it starts at school administration and then it moves to the school board. So that is one of the recommendations that's coming out of the Board Development Committee. I'm going to move down. There are definitions of what excused absences are going to be. No changes there until we get down to number 1 in our definition of what an illness is. Absences in excess of 15 days may require medical verification. We wanted to take a look at changing that language from just being doctor to being medical verification. Doctor seems a descriptor that might not necessarily cover all the people who are working with our students when they are ill. No other changes. I did make note that there are additional information in ISD 742's policy related to student attendance that we do recognize that excused include religious holidays, college and technical college visits, vacations with prior approval, and school field trips. Those are not included in MSBA's model policy, but we've chosen to make sure that they are included. We did, as a committee, have a recommendation changing responsibility following an excused absence, and we're changing that to being just any absence. And then I'll talk a little bit about how we also, how that impacted the 2 paragraphs below. all students are required to make up all assignments missed or to complete alternative assignments as deemed appropriate in a time frame agreed upon between student, caregiver, and teacher. What we've done is we've proposed to mark out the students whose absences are excused. What we recognized is that we want all students working on assignments when they've missed work, whether it's been an excused or unexcused absence, that we recognize that as we assess students to show that we want them to show the work so that we can make sure that we can give them the credit for the work that they have done. And the second paragraph really starts to define previously what missed work meant and having a timeline regarding what missed work was going to be and how long they had to make it up. As a board committee, the recommendation is that we're having all students do that and that they're doing it in a time frame agreed upon between themselves, their caregiver, and the teacher. For unexcused absences, we did make a recommendation to change that an absence by a student which was not validated by a parent or guardian and or approved by the school district administration as being a change. And we also recognize that there was a unexcused absence that said work from home, and that should be reading school work from home. No other changes related to tardiness or unexcused tardiness are recommended. Again, we did take a look at when it comes to participating in extracurricular activities and school-sponsored on-the-job training, that instead of having physicians being the way we're defining that it be licensed medical providers. And the recognition that the dissemination of this policy that is going to be in our handbook and always available there as one of the links that you would see in our student handbook. My recollection serves me, that is the proposal for changes for Board Policy 503, student attendance. At this time, is there any questions from the school board?
What is the school work at home
So
and why is not excuse?
So as a conversation within the committee was that if you're doing school work at home, that would, if you're absent on that day and that you're doing your school work at home, that you're still absent, and that just doing the school work at home doesn't make it an excused absence. That maybe a better way to put it, that under compulsory attendance law, that you need to be at school. And if you were going to be doing your regular work at home, we would be looking at possibly a different model of how you're receiving your instruction. CMPA, if you wanted to continue to do school work at home.
Okay. Medical, dental, or orthodontic treatment or counseling appointment does not need verification.
Tell me which section we're under, I'm sorry, Monica.
The following reasons shall be sufficient to constitute excused absence. That's numeral B, and then I missed that now. Okay. Number 4.
So could you repeat your question again, Monica? Because we are now under
So I'm just looking at number.
excused absences.
Yes. So you have number 1, and parents have to verify or absence in excess of so many days need verification, medical verification. But if you have a dental appointment or orthodontic treatment or a counseling appointment, you don't need verification.
No, probably the best way to put this is during the first 15 days when you might have an absence, and the absence in excess of 15 days, if it goes beyond 15 days, the school district administration can require that you're providing medical verification for those days. That is within the policy.
Okay. But parents, in the first one, parents will verify a student's illness to the school administration. In the others, they don't.
They should be doing that for all of them. What this is a definition of what type of occurrence that could happen of what you would be excused for, in trying to differentiate what would be an excused and unexcused. Where the 15-day part of number 1 comes into place is calling out that after 15 days, the school district would be requiring the possibility of medical verification for any of those additional absences.
So I suggest that you put something outside of the numerals that said that parents need to verify in every case, if that is the case. Because it's only one. So if I'm a student, I can tell you that I had a doctor's appointment. And my parents don't need to tell you anything, according to what I'm seeing right now here. Is that the case?
No, because if you go up to number 1 under excused absence, Monica, if I'm reading correctly and understanding your question, to be excused or an excused absent by the student's parent or legal guardian may be asked in verifying and writing the reason for the student's absence. So right now, as a matter of practice, our parents are calling students in if they're sick or if there's any of those other excused absences that are listed under number 1 through 16.
I think, Monica, if I can offer maybe something that will help. Within those first 15 absences, if a parent is calling in and saying, I have a dentist appointment, that is excused. On the 16th dental appointment, we are asking for that medical verification so that we can ensure that students are in school getting their education.
Yes, I understand that. Yeah, I guess I guess if nobody else have issues with this, maybe it's the way that I'm reading it.
I think that we, in the committee, didn't we say that search for parent and maybe look at putting parent/caregiver? Because I think that one just says parent right there.
No, but it says in the number 8,
No,
parent or legal guardian.
Up there it says caregiver, parent or legal guardian. But if you go down to right there, number 1, it just says parents will verify. And I think we had brought up that throughout this, we kind of interchange parent, parent guardian, parent caregiver, and we wanted to get consistent with those. And then there was another bullet, number 2, not that number 2 though. Laurie, maybe you want to.
Can you take a look at 2.2?
2.2.
2.2.
Oh, 2.2.
2, keep going.
Roman numeral 2.
Nope, number 2. Keep going.
Excuse absence, any absence in which student.
Going. Keep going. There, 2.2. I'm wondering if we don't need a student/parent caregiver, because if the student's 7, we are not holding this 7-year-old accountable for failure to comply. Thank you.
What? Any absence in which the student and caregiver is what you add?
My suggestion was, in this, it says it's holding the student accountable for failure to report. Is that how you read it?
how I'm looking at that, Dr. Putnam, is any absence in which the student failed to comply. I think, what are you alluding to, that the caregiver failed to comply also in the reporting requirements?
Correct,
Yeah.
because we do not hold 7-year-olds accountable.
I would agree with that. Thank you. Any other questions or concerns or additions?
No, just do a search for
Parent and caregiver.
parent, or I'll do a search for all three of them, see if we can get them consistent throughout the policy.
So in that point, there is a part that is parent or legal guardian, and then the next is parent or guardian. I don't know if it matters.
If it helps with timing, I can make sure we clean that up for the
Yeah.
second read.
Yep.
And then we can, I'll highlight them to make sure that they are all
Yeah.
accurate.
Yep,
That
so
would
I'd
help.
come back next week.
Yep.
Okay,
Any other concerns or comments?
anything else
Thank you.
from anyone? If not, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Seconded by Scott. Monica with the motion, Scott second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. And that will do it for tonight's meeting. We'll be back here next week on Wednesday, and Shannon will be back in the chair position. I'll be comfortably sitting over there.
Thank you, everybody. The tamales. I got $1,200 for the museum.